welcome to Timber Talks. This is the first in our series talking about timber harvesting at Tilhill. So I would like to welcome you this morning, Harry.
Thank you, Georgina. Nice to be here.
So can you start off just telling the audience a little bit about your background and what you do for Tilhill?
Yeah, okay. So I've worked in forestry since I was 19, which is a long, long time ago. And for the last 25 plus years in harvesting, and for the last 16 years at BSW, and then Tilhill, joined the Tilhill board about 6 years ago. And my responsibility now is the provision or the supply of logs to the BSW sawmills, the harvesting of that, and the other associated contracts that we have with Caledonian, Shotton and Volac. And so I'm part of a team of about 40, just over 40 people, harvesting managers and supply managers, and the sort of associated administration that sits behind that, and the compliance and all that sort of good stuff. So good strong team of people there. Been really quite unprecedented times. As I said, I've worked for BSW for 16 years, but even if I cast my mind back all the way through my career in harvesting and the processing market, it's a period that we've never seen anything like before, where we've seen spectacular rises in end product prices and strong inflation in the roundwood market that sits as part of that. The drivers of that are somewhat internal within the UK. So as COVID really kicked off, everyone's sitting at home, get out in their garden, want a new border, a new trellis, new fence around the garden. And just looking out of the window here, I can see there's 3 houses locally to me where very early on within lockdown, they started to do that sort of work. So initially, the market was driven strongly by that demand for sort of what we call fencing amenity type work. And very rapidly there became shortages. And then as the economy, the wider economy took off and building sites restarted, both here, but perhaps more importantly, internationally, there's become a real shortage of construction timber. And that's still with us now. So still internationally, strong demand for construction timber, particularly in the US, for example. And that's the UK market's dominated by what's going on with imports, because we're only somewhere around a quarter self-sufficient in terms of timber. The rest is imported. So if the world market for timber's taking off, then it's going to put pressure in the UK market. And we've seen that. We've really seen that. Now things have probably begun to settle a bit, but we haven't yet seen weakening of price.
So how long do you think this will go on for? Do you think timber prices are going to change? Is the market going to shift now things are going back to normal in terms of, lockdown is over? Is it, do you see in the future, can anyone predict that kind of thing?
Well, no, and that's part of my job, is trying to look in the crystal ball, and because we when we buy timber contracts for standing timber or delivered logs or delivered roundwood, we're buying long, and we're tending to sell short as businesses. So the end product within the sawmills is maybe only a couple of months out that we've got any idea on what the price is, whereas we're perhaps buying forward supply contracts for, can be as much as 9 months, but typically 4 or 5 months. However, we perhaps have had greater clarity in this last period than at any time, and I think it's fair to say that the sort of what we might call the house view would be that till Christmas, things are certainly fairly safe. Thereafter, I think it's a reasonable bet that Q1 next year will remain with a strong demand profile. After that, very difficult to say. There's, you can look at all sorts of reports that would suggest to you that things are likely to remain good, but it's a long way out. So our assumption is that the saw market and the markets that go to make up the value within the tree are going to remain pretty good for certainly the rest of this calendar year.
That's great, but is Tilhill keeping up with the demand?
When COVID started and all the mills slowed right down, and then all of a sudden wanted to restart, and that whole supply chain, not just for Tilhill, but for the whole supply chain for the sector, really struggled to get going. And it took us probably until March, because we had to layer on top of that a very difficult winter, probably the most challenging winter we've had in terms of snow and ice and things like that. So from middle of 2020 through until about April 2021, it's been extraordinary pressure on the team and the supply chain to provide logs to the end user. But now we've caught up. We've got volume at roadside, we've got volume in the mills, and the wider sector. You know, if we looked at what our competitors are doing, they're exactly in the same positions. So yeah, the roundwood supply chain has caught up with the demand from the processors. The processors haven't caught up with the demand from the sector, but it's a much more comfortable position that the roundwood sector finds itself in now.
Thank you so much for today, Harry. And that was Timber Talks. We'll be back again next month, giving you some insights into Tilhill with the one and only Harry Stevens.